This is Matthew Kratter from Trader University, and today I want to talk about what I'm calling Vitalik's weird mountain man fantasy. This is Vitalik Buterin, of course, one of the co-founders of Ethereum, and currently the guy who wields the bully pulpit and basically directs the direction of the whole Ethereum project. And I'm going to be talking about his view of Ethereum nodes. And what I'm going to be arguing is that Ethereum culture, as I've said in many videos, really is rotten from the top. The message from Vitalik is don't run a node, just trust Vitalik and his friends, especially the beneficiaries of the huge Ethereum pre-mine. By contrast, what does Bitcoin culture look like? Bitcoin nodes check every block and transaction to make sure that the rules, the consensus rules, are being followed. Bitcoin miners create new blocks, but if Bitcoin nodes reject them, they will not be added to the blockchain. So these nodes on Bitcoin, the nodes of the Bitcoin network, are extremely important and they're really underappreciated. And I don't know of another cryptocurrency that approaches them in the same way. Bitcoin nodes ensure the neutrality and the decentralization of Bitcoin. And the way that this is ensured is by making it very easy and cheap for everyone and anyone to run a Bitcoin node. We can see that there are Bitcoin nodes all over the world here. There are currently over 14,000 reachable nodes, and people like Adam Back have suggested that in terms of invisible nodes are ones that you can't directly see as easily because they might be over Tor, for example, the number is closer to 100,000. So you can see these full nodes, these full Bitcoin nodes are in every continent, every part of the world, definitely concentrated in the US and Europe, but also found globally. Here is Vitalik's quote, and this is where I got the idea of the weird mountain man fantasy. Vitalik, this is a tweet from 2017. Vitalik Buterin speaking here. The idea of average users personally validating the entire history of the system is a weird mountain man fantasy. There, I said it. So in order to understand this, we have to have a little background. When you decide to run a Bitcoin node on your old laptop or on a Raspberry Pi, you just go to this website, you download the Bitcoin Core software. This is being mirrored everywhere. It's on GitHub, it's on Git, obviously. And so anyone can access it for free, can download it, and can run it. And when you do this, Bitcoin Core will manually go through and check every single Bitcoin transaction since the original block, since Satoshi's Genesis block from January 2009. And the Bitcoin Core software will comb through every single transaction to make sure that the consensus rules have been followed. It'll take a look at every single block that has ever been mined and make sure that it also follows the consensus rules. And this really is an integral part of Bitcoin culture. You run your own node when you get to a certain point and you become very serious about Bitcoin and you want to help to enforce the consensus rules. Again, it doesn't cost anything to do this. You just download the free software on an old machine you may have and connect it to the internet. The other integral part of Bitcoin culture, obviously, is to hold your own Bitcoin, not your keys, not your coins. Now, by contrast, Ethereum is very, very different. Almost no one in the Ethereum ecosystem runs a full node, or what they call an archival node, which has all of the history and all of the state history going back to the inception of the Ethereum blockchain. This running of nodes in Ethereum almost always gets outsourced to large companies like Infura, Alchemy. Most Ethereans use the Metamask wallet, for example. Most people who are in DeFi use the Metamask wallet as well. And this connects to the Infura node by default. So Infura is a large corporation. And when you use Metamask, the obvious, the default setting is to connect to an Infura node. Unlike Bitcoin, it's extremely expensive and difficult to run an Ethereum node. And one reason for this is just the very large size of the Ethereum blockchain versus the Bitcoin blockchain. If we go to Clark Moody's Bitcoin dashboard here, we can see that the current size of the Bitcoin blockchain, if we just look under blockchain here and we go down to chain size, it's 481 gigabytes. By contrast, an Ethereum full node, an archival node or an archive node, currently has a memory requirement, a data size of 11,564,000 gigabytes. This is much, much more difficult. Most people could easily hold 481 gigs on their laptop or desktop or on a Raspberry Pi, but certainly not everyone could hold 11,564 gigs. So the reason, what this leads to is it leads to corporations maintaining the nodes on the Ethereum network. And we already mentioned Infura. This is Alchemy. This is from their own website talking about how running your own full node in Ethereum requires a lot of dedicated hardware, including a lot of RAM, etc. And it actually goes into the maintenance costs. These seem extraordinarily high to me, but I'm going to assume that it's somewhere around here. High maintenance costs include an average of $86,000 per year in costs, $2,000 to $5,000 per month in AWS costs, and $4,800 per month of engineering time. It's time consuming, it's technically difficult. And this is why everyone outsources it to these large corporations in Ethereum. If anyone who's listening to this video today runs your own Ethereum full archival node, please let me know in the comments. I'd be very interested if we get any Ethereans who are listening to this who actually run their own node. If you run your own Bitcoin node, feel free to drop that in the comments as well. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, do hit that subscribe button. Here is another a Medium blog post, and this post goes into why you need your own blockchain node provider. Why is running your own Ethereum node difficult, etc. So I will link to that in the description notes below. These centralized corporations have become so important to the Ethereum ecosystem that when one of them goes down, so for example, back in November of 2020, Infura actually crashed and went down, and as a result, all the crypto exchanges had to disable ETH withdrawals. So these are very, very important parts of the Ethereum ecosystem, and most of the ecosystem is highly dependent on Infura and Alchemy. Now, after Ethereum moves to proof of stake next month and adds things like sharding in the coming years, it's going to be even more difficult and expensive to run a full Ethereum node. The size of the new Ethereum blockchain is going to be absolutely enormous. So why does this even matter? Well, there are two main reasons. The first reason is it's impossible to have a neutral, decentralized money if the majority of participants rely on blockchain data from just a few companies like Infura and Alchemy. This is the complete opposite of the crypto ethos. This is, in fact, trusting instead of verifying. The only real way to verify something is to run your own node. Otherwise, you need to trust someone else's node. And if you're interacting with the Bitcoin network or the Ethereum network and you're not using your own node, that means you are trusting someone else's node, whether you recognize that or not. So that's the first reason. The second reason is when Infura, Alchemy, or Metamask block access to a service, for example, like Tornado Cash, which was put on a ban list by OFAC, by the US government, when these companies block access to something in the Ethereum network at the request of the US government, the majority of Ethereans are unable to connect to these services, to Tornado Cash, which I certainly don't recommend you connect to. You can get in a lot of trouble with the US government, or whatever service, even if they want to. Going forward, this is going to be a big problem if the US government gets to decide what people can and cannot do with Ethereum. And the only way to ensure that you have access to all parts of the Ethereum ecosystem or the Bitcoin ecosystem is to run your own node. But I think there are a lot of powers that be that enjoy having Ethereans being captured like this. And it really does flow from the top, as I said, the idea of average users personally validating the entire history of the system. In other words, combing through the blockchain to make sure it follows all the consensus rules from inception to the present. Vitalik considers this to be a weird mountain man fantasy. So why do I discuss Ethereum so often? Why do I bring up issues like this? You'll often see in the comments, commenters accusing me of being scared or jealous or angry, but I can assure you that it's none of these things. The reason I cover things like Ethereum, first of all, it's the number 2 crypto by market cap, so it is reasonably important. It's moving to proof of stake imminently, and this is going to be a very, very interesting move to watch. I don't own any Ethereum, but I will be watching from the sidelines to see how this goes. So I'm not scared, I'm not jealous, I'm not angry. I could easily buy some Ethereum if I wanted to. I consider it to be absolute captured, controlled garbage that's going to get even worse. But the reason I discuss things like proof of stake and Ethereum is to help people understand why Bitcoin is so special, why proof of work is superior to proof of stake, And the best way to understand what makes Bitcoin so special and unique is to understand its competitors. As I said, Ethereum is moving to proof of stake in the next few weeks, right after having experienced this US government OFAC attack on Tornado Cash. So it's fascinating to watch. I still can't believe they're going to go ahead with it. It's like Ethereans have learned absolutely nothing from the censorship, but this makes sense because Ethereans take the cue from the guy at the top, which is Vitalik. Bitcoin does not have any guy at the top. Satoshi left a long time ago. He has zero influence over the protocol. And if he were to return, it's not necessarily true that he would even receive a warm welcome. He could be completely ostracized. So we don't need Satoshi anymore. We're very grateful for the gift that he gave the world, but we don't have a guy, a president of Ethereum or a president of the foundation or a guy who leads the bully pulpit in Bitcoin, unlike Ethereum, which has Vitalik. And Vitalik spews this sort of toxic culture about how you don't need to run your own node. Just trust Vitalik and Joe Lubin and his friends to verify things for you. Ethereum culture flows from this corrupt leadership, and this leadership is a huge beneficiary of the Ethereum pre-mine. They got a lot of this Ethereum, 60% of it was pre-mined and pre-sold. And what's happening with the move to proof of stake is that the Ethereum leadership is solidifying control over the protocol. Under proof of stake, as I've said many, many times on this channel, the more coins you own, the more control you have over the network and over the protocol, because you can be a validator and you can push through the transactions you want. You can censor the transactions you don't want, especially if you have a majority or super majority. Under proof of work, having more coins does not give you any additional control over the protocol. So the Bitcoin miners don't control the protocol. They don't control Bitcoin, and the developers don't control Bitcoin as they do with Ethereum. The whales don't control Bitcoin. It's the full nodes that run the software that enforce the consensus rules. This is the group that is in charge of Bitcoin and prevents unnecessary or unwanted changes from being pushed through either by devs or by large corporations. So as we've discussed in this video, running an Ethereum node is not part of Ethereum culture. Absolutely no one does it. And this really is a fatal flaw, but it's one that's obviously encouraged by the leadership. One reason for this, we can take Joe Lubin, for example, who's an entrepreneur, one of the co-founders of Ethereum, a major beneficiary personally of the pre-mine. He's also the founder of a company called ConsenSys, which owns both Metamask, the wallet software, and Infura, which controls most of the Ethereum nodes. So it's very clear what's going on here. You have Ethereum leadership not wanting you to run your own node, instead to use their own corporate services, which are themselves beholden to the US government and to regulators. So this hasn't been a free system since 2015. Moving to proof of stake is going to make it even more captured and controlled. And this is actually the way that Vitalik and Joe Lubin want it to be. This is why they tell you not to run your own node. Let Infura do it. You can just trust the guys at the Ethereum Foundation and ConsenSys to look out for you. Again, this is the complete opposite of the whole crypto mindset, which should be to verify for yourself and don't trust anyone else. Definitely don't trust insiders who have been dumping their Ethereum on you. I'm going to link to the ConsenSys Wikipedia entry here so you can see that ConsenSys is involved both with MetaMask and with Infura. It's very easy in Bitcoin, of course, to run your own node. I will link to in the description notes below to Bitcoin Core here, where you can just click download Bitcoin Core for your own operating system. You just download this on an old laptop. It's best to use a separate computer if you have it where you're not doing your daily business. You basically just install it, download it, install it, let it run. It will verify all the blocks and transactions from 2009, and then it will go on its merry way of enforcing the consensus rules. You can turn it off, you can disconnect it from the internet, and when you turn it back on or connect it again to the internet, your Bitcoin full node will catch up and will continue to verify the transactions and blocks that it missed while it was off. If you need some extra help, or if you want to take it to the next level, and in addition to setting up your own node, you want to learn how to connect your own full node to a hardware wallet like the Cold Card or the Trezor. If you want to learn how to build your own multi-vendor, multi-sig vault, If you become very serious about storing your Bitcoin and you don't want to rely on a third party to do that, that is the gold standard, or I should say the Bitcoin standard for Bitcoin storage. If you want to fill your vault with anonymous non-KYC Bitcoin, these are the kind of things that I talk about in my paid course on Bitcoin, which I'll link to below. First, watch all my free videos. I have almost 1,000 free videos on YouTube about Bitcoin. So check out the free material first, and then when you're ready to do a really deep dive, when you're becoming much more serious about becoming a Bitcoiner, you can check out the paid course. You'll get access to all my trading courses, all my investment courses, all my long-term investment ideas, in addition to the Bitcoin course, which I'll link to below: how to buy Bitcoin anonymously, how to run your own Bitcoin node, how to set up a wallet, a hardware wallet or a software wallet, and connect it to your full node, how to set up a multi-sig vault and connect it to your full node, and also how to do coin join, which is not something I'm currently able to discuss on this platform for obvious reasons. So I'll stick a link in the description notes below if you want to check this out. Again, after you've already exhausted all my free material, that's the right time to check out the paid material. And when you're on the checkout page, I'd encourage you to use a coupon code, which I'm going to give you. Normally access to everything, the Bitcoin course, all the courses, my long-term investment ideas, is just $125 for 30 days access. I'm going to give you a coupon code. If you just click right here where it says have coupon code, and then you type YT99 and click update, that'll take $26 off the price. You'll get access to everything for just $99 for 30 days. There are no long-term contracts or anything like that. You can cancel at any point that you want after you're done watching the Bitcoin course and the other trading courses. So be sure to check that out. I'll stick a link in the description notes below. If you've enjoyed today's video, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.